like, don't start. So we are recording. And this is an interview that I have the opportunity to do. I'm Lawanda Tillett, interviewing this month InfluencHER for InfluencHER magazine. I have the opportunity to interview Miss Virginie Madistin. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes, you did.
Yes, and she is is this the Girls Boss Movement?
No, this is Girls Igniting Greater Inner Strength.
Okay, I'm trying to ask because I haven't had a chance to look at your profile, which is very pretty, by the way, with the girls and it's pink and gold. I was like, okay, I like that already. So I had a chance to sit down and chat.
Yes.
Did you have a chance to go over or see what this month's theme is going to be for the month of March?
Yes, Women's Month, correct?
Yes, it is Women's Month. So excited.
It is. It's very exciting. I thought, what an amazing month to be featured in. Like,
Yes,
that's so awesome.
it is. And not only that, but what a unique year to be part of this month. So this year's women's issue. Because so much happened since last year, in terms of like what women are doing. And so I'm excited. We have our first female vice president ever in the United
Oh my gosh, what an accomplishment that was.
Yes. She's African American, which really makes my heart go pitter patter for real.
Yeah.
And of course the theme is who runs the world, girls. So
We do.
absolutely. So I just want to ask a few questions. So we'll start with that. We'll lead with that question. When you hear who runs the world, girls, what does that mean to you? What's your first thought about that?
So when I hear that statement or that phrase, I think that it's empowering. I think first of all, it gives girls an opportunity to know our strength, to know who we really are, and to know that yes, we do run the world. We make things go round. It's so important that as girls, as women, we know our strengths. And I think that from the beginning of time, biblically, like women, we give life. We create, like we do something that men can't do. And
Yes.
so I think that is so amazing. I think I always say I would not want to be a man. I just feel like being a woman is so powerful. We literally can carry life inside of us, and we do all of those things. So we really do run the world. We create future presidents and future vice presidents, and we make all of that happen. So ultimately we run this world.
And it's interesting you put in that perspective because we do, though we need a male to help reproduce, but in terms of like protecting and covering and nurturing, everything comes from us. So they would be more mindful to care for us.
Right.
Because, like you said, from us comes those future leaders and world changers. So I didn't, and I've thought about it like that, but not necessarily in that particular setting to where like we're covering all of that.
Yeah.
Inside of us.
Yeah.
So I'm always excited because some people say, well, I think about Beyonce. And that's true. She
she did come out with that song now.
She did come up with the song, so I can't take anything from her. But as far as like that connotation and everything else, we've been walking that out for a while now.
Yeah.
So, and again, your entity, your organization, say that again for me, because I want to get it right.
So it's Girls Igniting Greater Inner Strength, and the acronym is Gigi Inc. My nickname is Gigi, so but it literally it kind of worked out that way. But it's Girls Igniting Greater Inner Strength.
So where I wrote it down, like I said, when we had a chance to kind of like send you what the overview would be that we would talk about today, those were kind of some of the things. Where do you see Gigi? Where do you see Gigi in playing a part for how women will continue to run the world and impact the world?
So Gigi Inc. is a confidence building organization for adolescent girls. And we focus on helping girls to basically walk through life with a healthy self-esteem and positive self-confidence, because I believe confidence is the foundation of everything that they are going to do in life, everything they're going to be has to deal with confidence. The level of confidence that they possess is ultimately going to lead them to their destinies. And so we believe in equipping the next generation of girls to become confident women and to walk boldly in their purpose. And so our organization literally strives to instill just positivity all around.
So, and they always say that from our places of healing and hurting and from brokenness to healing is where our purpose comes from. Where did that come from you? What gave you the strength? What inspired you to start this organization?
So I went through a very traumatic experience. And so I grew up, to be honest with you, I never dealt before. Prior to the age of 19, I never dealt with low self esteem. I never dealt with insecurity. I really didn't know what that was. At the age of 19, I experienced a traumatic weight loss experience. I went from a size 26 at my highest. I was always a big, plump, girl, and I was confident, like I loved my body and I loved to eat and I just loved my size and I embraced it. I went from a size 26 to a size 6 in 30 days. So about a month's time, my body went through extensive trauma. It was literally almost like pregnant women that get digestional diabetes. It was something of the sort. I was not pregnant. It was just something that was happening within my body. So at that time, my body was just in total shock. I stopped having menstrual cycles. I didn't have a menstrual cycle for about 3 years. And so my skin started to break out. And here I am. I used to be so heavy, and now I'm this little tiny thing. And my mind didn't really know how to catch up with all of that. My mind didn't know how to process that. So to the world, they were like, oh my God, you lost all this weight. Oh girl, you look good and everything. But I became so insecure. Like outwent my confidence with my weight loss. Cause it was just like, here I am looking at this person that I didn't know, because it was so fast, the weight loss. It was just like, and I wasn't necessarily trying to lose weight, or it was just my body just did that. And so I would go home and I remember just feeling so insecure and really not wanting to look at it. I would cover the mirrors up in my house because I didn't know who was the person looking back at me. Like, I don't know that girl. Like, where's my plump, fun self? And so after I went through that traumatic experience, I received my call to ministry. And God told me that. And I felt like it was like, for that whole time, like I just felt all of the pain, all of the emotion. Like I had never dealt with insecurity before. And so during that time period, I just dealt with all of that. Like I just felt like what women felt. I felt what it was like to feel like, when people say, oh my God, I'm so ugly, or, I had never dealt with that. And here I am. And I'm like, oh my God, I just feel so ugly. I didn't want to look at myself. And granted, it was just so opposite to the world, because I would go out and
Do you see me? I'm sitting here, I'm like, and I'm like, like there's nothing else to say, because you very rarely do you hear this reverse.
it was total reverse.
Reverse thought process, because you typically have women who are like, I really want to give it this way, and they're excited about it. And when they see them, like, oh, I look good. It looks very rarely do you see the opposite end. Not to say that women plus size, my curvy girls such as myself, that we don't feel that self-confidence. I'm not saying that, but oftentimes we're embracing it because it's a have to and not a want to. And that desire to slim down and to become a more healthier size, I would say, is the definition of the world. So that's why I'm saying, like, this is such a reverse conversation.
It was like the total reverse for me. And I mean, when I tell you, when people that who know, they were like, oh my God, Gigi, you look so good and great. And I was just so insecure. And I just like, I couldn't stand to look at myself. I couldn't stand to look at my body. I just didn't know who I was. I struggled with my identity. And it was so funny that it was during that particular time, God chose to call me into ministry. And so I ended up going to Bible college at that time. And it was almost like I was in this like refrigerator of just preservation, really. And God really just preserved me. And during that time, he taught me a lot of things. He walked me through, like, because you have to understand, I went from somebody that was completely confident, almost conceited when I was heavy, like literally. I thought I was just all that.
You don't usually get that.
Oh, I thought I was all that in a bag of chips, honey. You couldn't tell me nothing as a big girl. And and he stripped me of all of that confidence. And then he walked me back to it. So he taught me how to gain it back, like step by step. And so I have a book coming out, and it's really this whole story. It's entitled Beauty Beyond the Measurements. And it literally takes you through my journey. Each chapter is a size, but each chapter is a lesson. Each chapter, it's a way for women to discover themselves and to find their way to their true definition of beauty, despite what society might say a measurement or a dress size. And when I say measurements, I mean like limitations. I let my size at that time limit me. I let the weight on the scale, the number on the scale, just put a limit on myself. And so Beauty Beyond the Measurements really just seeks to empower and ignite confidence. And I'm super, super excited about it. But it's really my story. And, it's like life lessons. It's almost like secrets, for women to gain their self-confidence back and to stay on track. Because confidence is really a journey. It's not a destination. You never fully arrive. You'll wake up one day, you're like, oh God, I'm just not feeling it today.
Exactly. Like
So
this natural journey has me feeling like that. I really feel, I feel like I'm in an awkward place right now, because I had my hair relaxed since I was 14. And so I just started, when I say just, this will be my second year being natural. And I still haven't found that place where I'm like, oh, I really, really like it. I thought if I changed the color, it would get me. So when I went blonde, I was like, okay. And then I was like, no, because then the black would start coming back in. Then I went to get the brown, the red, and I was like, oh, I kind of like it. Then COVID hit, and I was like, so then I went to braids. Then I had braids out. Then I took the braids. I was like, I don't know. So then I did a ponytail. I didn't like that because it hurt my head. It was because like my daughter, I was like, I promise you could see my brain because she had to pull back so tight. And I didn't like that. And then it was like, oh, okay, what am I do now? So then I had my boyfriend to shave, like give me a mohawk. So now I'm like, so I understand, it really is an uncomfortable place.
but it's a self-discovery place. And I always tell people it's okay. Like I did the big chop once upon a time. I did it a couple of times actually. And I mean, I went all the way, like just take it all off and just leave me.
leave me with my scalp.
Leave me with my scalp. And it was refreshing for me, but there were days I wake up like, oh my God, what did I do? Miss my hair, and so it's definitely a journey, but I think one that every woman should take. That journey of self-discovery, that journey of loving yourself beyond beauty is deeper than the skin. And so it takes so much to just wake up in the morning and just, love all of you.
every curve, every not curve, because
every stretch mark, all of it,
because really that, I promise you, I'm still stuck at the beginning of our interview when you talked about like the reverse. Very rarely does that happen, but I guess it also goes back to when you see a lot of weight loss journeys, they have them meet with psychologists as they go through the process. Maybe to be ready for what that part would be like.
Yeah. I mean, it was just that my body was in total shock. And, there were just so many things happening because it was so fast. Like I'm talking about,
you said 30 days, and I was like,
yeah, like I literally went from like 200 and something pounds to like 130 pounds at my, so it was just like, it was crazy, and so it's like I would look at my clothes and like, okay, I used to wear that. Like now it's like I'm looking at it like, what happened? And then what's crazy is I subconsciously I went back up to a size 22. like after that happened.
How long
So
was that period? So after you lost the weight and you're now a size 6,
mhm.
and you said, how long was the period from the time of you, I guess, going back and going through this process and this journey with God? How long was that time before you were back to where you were back to, like, I guess you said the size 22?
22. Yeah. So it was about a 3-year period. And I was in school, I was in Bible college for about 3 years. And
Okay.
so it was like during that whole time, God was like processing me, like he was teaching me different things. And it was like I started to self-consciously, like I was putting the weight back on, and I didn't even realize it until I had gotten to a size 22. But at each level, it's almost like as I was putting the weight back on, I was also gaining my confidence back. It was like the weirdest thing. And so the bigger I got, the more confident I got. And so it was like I got to a size 22 and I was just like, wait a minute, like what happened? And now I sit comfortably at like a 14, 16, and I'm happy with that. I'm just comfortable in my skin now, whatever the number is. I don't really measure it anymore. However, but it was just the weirdest thing seeing how the numbers just went right back up and the confidence went up with it. And it was, I don't know, it was just an amazing journey, but it was a challenging time.
I don't, and I'm just, it's almost like he emptied you so that when he filled you back up again, it wouldn't be your confidence, it would be his.
Yeah, and I was filled back with substance. And I think before, like originally, like I said, when I was a big girl, oh, I was big headed. Like people who knew me were like, oh God, you were so. I really was conceited. Like I just was all about me. Like I'm not even joking. Like
But you don't. And again, I know it sounds funny, and I really don't mean it that way. But it's not often you'll see women who are plus size who are like, girl, I love me, all of me, but they're still not trying to get any larger. You know,
mhm.
I've not. I don't know. I've not met anybody who was conceited on the opposite side. I've seen women who were like a size 2 and be totally arrogant because they.
Oh no, I was so
So I've
arrogant,
experienced.
honey.
That's what I'm saying. I've experienced that. I've never seen it the other way.
The opposite way. And it was so crazy how it happened that way for me, because you would have thought, like, after I lost all that weight and I would have been just flying myself around. Let me tell you, I was so insecure. And it was the time, like, when I was heavier, oh God, I showed it all. Like,
I showed it all.
oh, honey, the shorter the dress, the better. My boobs was always like, hey, how you doing? And and it was so funny. And I'm just like, even when I got called into ministry, I was like, really, God? Like, it's me. Like,
She
we
was
not
like, you like me?
me. Like, call somebody else. And it was so funny. And so, but it was during that time, like here I am, like, and I'm not exaggerating. I wish I had a picture up. I have to find one to see if I could send it
Yes,
to you.
we are gonna have to have a picture. I have to tell. We have to do like a before because I think it's important. I do think it's important that young ladies understand. Like you said confidence is a journey, and it doesn't matter which way you. This is just really a story about confidence is one way or the other. It's not about being super skinny, and it's not about
Mhm.
being super, like plus size. It's just like it doesn't have a respect of person when your confidence is in question.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So the I'm just so
You're like baffled.
I am because but again, but I think there's value in that though, like you just said.
Mhm.
And then when you were being filled and filling out, I don't think it's a bad thing, but you just like you said, you got the substance. So when you are ministering, because I consider what you do, Gigi, I consider that a ministry.
Mhm.
It's like a pulpit. When you're ministering to the ladies, how do they receive your story when you share that with them?
I think a lot of times people are always so shocked that, like you said, it's the reverse. It was just like who gets insecure, like from, and especially when I show them my picture, because they're like, oh my God, you look so good. Like, it's like, oh my gosh, like, why would you be insecure? Like, why on earth? and it almost makes like no logical sense. But spiritually, it was just like I had to go through that. And there were so many spiritual lessons that I learned in the process of it. And it was the timing. It was like God's timing and the stripping of my arrogance, the stripping of even like my confidence, like stripping it. Like now I have a more profound appreciation for it. And it wasn't until God stripped me from it that I answered the call. Because oftentimes, I'll give you a scenario. Let's say you have a bicycle. I just love using analogies.
I do too.
And you have a bicycle and you love to ride your bicycle and all the time and you just love your bicycle. And you have a friend who doesn't have a bicycle. And you're like, oh, you can ride my bike sometimes, like when I'm not using it or whatever, like that. And so one day you come home and your bicycle is gone. You're like, oh my God. So all of a sudden, you now feel what that friend felt. And so for me, that bicycle was my confidence. So like when I was heavier and I was plus size and I just thought I was all that. Like I love to like people knew like if I'm going out, like it don't matter if I'm the biggest girl in the group, I'm the flyest girl in the group too, you know? And so, but it wasn't until like I didn't know what women were going through. I didn't know that when my sister would be like, "Oh, I feel so," like I didn't even think of that. Like that wasn't a thing for me. Like, what you mean you're ugly? What you mean you don't like your thighs? What you mean? Like, because I never struggled with that. And so it wasn't until I lost my confidence that I now not only was able to sympathize with women and girls dealing with insecurity and low self-esteem and negative self-talk. And so I now could empathize with them because I lost my bike too. Like, oh my God, I know how it feels. So now you come home and your bike is returned miraculously. So now you're like, you go to that friend, you're like, you can ride my bike anytime because you now know how it feels not to have it. And so that was my journey with confidence. Like after I realized how women were walking the earth, like people wake up and they can't stand to look at themselves in the mirror because of an insecurity, because they're ashamed of their bodies, because they don't feel pretty enough. They don't feel that, they don't like their hair. They don't like their skin. I battled acne. Like I went from perfectly flawless skin to, having acne at that time because I wasn't having a menstrual cycle. And so you can imagine, I went from somebody that like, I wouldn't have a blemish, a pimple, like nothing. And to now and I'm like, I couldn't stand to look at myself in the mirror because my face was covered with patches of just bumps and, everything. And so that did so much trauma to me. Like I literally went to school and learned and became an esthetician just so I could take better care of my skin. Oh yeah, it was so serious because I'd be like, I'm talking about like if I show you like I had flawless skin, and after going through that traumatic experience, my skin just went haywire. And that was another insecurity factor for me. It's like, oh my God, like I got this here, this patch, and my skin would not, my tone is uneven. Like it was just crazy. And so even as I went through aesthetic school, I learned so much about the beauty industry and I learned so much about confidence and how much women did not have it and how they were suffering and how, like the makeup and the trying to cover it and trying to fix it. And I went to school so that I could learn how to take better care of the skin. And a lot of the clients that would come to me, they just wanted me to cover it up. And I fell in love with the industry and I fell in love with educating women about the importance of skincare. And even in doing that, it was a lesson. It was a lesson. Like God used every part of that journey to teach me something. Like he would tell me like when you're cleansing your face, he's like, are they cleansing their minds? Are they cleansing the negative things that people have said about them? We wash our face every day, but do you go home at night and do you say, you know what, somebody said something negative to me and I don't receive that, so I'm washing that away? And so he taught me that, we exfoliate, right? And exfoliation is taking away those dead skin cells.
Yep.
And there are things that are deeper. There are things that our mother, our father, some of the closest people to us said to us when we were 5 and 6. And we need to exfoliate some of that stuff away because it's still impacting our insecurity. Like, it is still the root of our insecurities. And we need to exfoliate some of that stuff away. And then it's like I break everything down, even down to like the mask. You apply a mask on your face. Why? You want to replenish. How often do we replenish our souls? How often do we spend time affirming who we are, who God created us to be, and just refilling us back up, like packing ourselves up with nutrients, just like we do with our skin. You put on that mask, it has all these vitamins and all the things that your skin needs. And it's like, do we do that for our soul? Do we sit there and say, you know what, Gigi, you are beautiful? And you are going to make an impact, and just loving on the self, and taking the time to really do all those things. And I go as deep as protection. Like, okay, we protect our face, we put on sunscreen, we put on whether it be lotion, a face moisturizer. But how do we protect our hearts? Do we guard our space? Do we guard the things that people say about us? Some of the negative things, like I'm very, like, I'm one of those people, like, I don't accept certain things. Like, somebody will say something to me, I'm like, oh, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. I don't even, like, it doesn't even enter my spirit, because I have a protection around me as it relates to my confidence, because I had to fight to get it back. So how dare you try to offend what I have worked so hard to gain? No, I'm not ugly. No, I'm not, like, all of these negative words. Like, no, I am none of those things. And so I think it's so important as women, as girls, to really do our regimen. Just like we have a skincare regimen, there's a confidence regimen, there is a recipe, and you have to practice those things daily, because if not, it insecurity is something that, like, everybody deals with it. And the more you don't pay attention to it, and the more you let it fester, then you wake up one day and you're like, oh, I'm depressed, and oh, I got this issue, and I got anxiety, and like, now I work in the mental health industry. And so so many women, like, it's like confidence and self-esteem is like the root of all things that manifest. It's like it always stems from that. Every time I speak to somebody, every time I talk to a young girl, it always stems from that same place of their self-esteem. It always stems from that one interaction, that one negative thought, that one negative thing that somebody said to them, and they never took care of it, and it just got fed, and it just grew, and it grew, and it just kept growing, until one day you wake up and you don't even know who you are, and you start having this identity crisis. And so, the Bible is very clear. The Bible says you are fearfully and wonderfully made. And so oftentimes we forget about ourselves, and it's because sometimes we don't affirm it. We don't wake up and every day say, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, even though we should, because we're God's creation, and he makes no mistakes. And so I tell people all the time, even after your Maybelline wears off, God's foundation is still there. He founded you. Like, you don't even need all that extra stuff, you know? And so I'll go off. So you got to stop me.
Well, no, and then the thing that people, what I love, and I'm excited about InfluencHER, is that it was allowing people to have a conversation, to sit down like girlfriends and have a conversation, to hear what people have to say. It's an interview, but I don't want to. So, well, then what do you think about this, and what do you think about that? Because I don't think you get the true soul of a person. And then when I go back to give out the interview and put it on paper, I want to make sure that the people feel what I feel. It is more than words. So the more you give me, the better it is. And it just, it's like, it just gets sweeter, because I think about my own self. I think about my daughters, and I think about the other women in the world who, coworkers and friends who struggle with that. And so as I was listening to you and you were talking, and I just kept hearing in my spirit, it was just like, I promise you, I will take where you've been to utilize it to help you go where I want you to go. And you literally have been able, because you answered every question I was going to ask. So what do you incorporate when you work with the girls to talk about self-esteem and confidence? But you already breaking it down, talking about going to school to be an esthetician and how every facet of that, when we think about the process, you've utilized everything and answered every question I could possibly think that I would ask. I was like, well, she's already answered. So I'll just ask the question, write it down and put it in there. But I just think that's so important, and it's good, and your passion for it. And I'm really not surprised you're in the mental health field. I am not. And again, people look at ministry as a pulpit, and I don't think we are always walking ministries. They don't.
Absolutely.
God is not a physical being. We are His feet, and we are the representation. I'm not shocked at all when you said the mental health. You have to bring parts of that to the table to do what you do working with the girls. Would you feel that that's part of it, that you have to have that mental health component to help instill into young ladies?
So initially it didn't start off that way. It was just something that I just fell into.
You did a lot of falling in the right direction, I'm gonna say.
Oh my gosh, let me tell you. I am an anomaly. Like, people just, when they listen to me, they're like, girl, you done been here, there, everywhere. Like,
That's
when I tell you,
like, she's like,
like,
wow.
my roadmap looks like a bowl of spaghetti. Like, and I'm so really, like, seriously, gotta be like, okay, next, okay. And so people are like, I'm 33 years old, and they're like, you done been this, you done did that, you done got my pastor be like, you got more degrees than a thermometer, girl. Like, I need you to just, you know.
What are your degrees? Okay, so you are a certified esthetician.
Okay, so we forgot that part, right?
Correct. I'm like, we
skipped right over that. So, okay, so my first degree is in psychology. And so initially I wanted to go to school. I wanted to be a child advocate attorney. And that was something that from the time I think I was in like the 6th grade, I just told everybody I was going to be a lawyer. And so, but God had other plans. And so, and I followed the track. Like, I did everything. I graduated top 10% of my class. I got accepted to a private university that had a pre-law program. I was accepted into the pre-law program. I was on a fast track, and I'm literally like a semester away from graduation when I get my call to ministry. And so law school didn't happen. So my first degree is in psychology. My second degree is in theology. And then after that, I went to aesthetic school and I became a registered esthetician. After that happened, I got introduced to the insurance industry. And so I am a licensed insurance professional. And so I do a lot of educating people about life insurance. Like, yes, I've been doing that for about 8 years. So after that happened,
and after that.
So, and after that happened, I ended up getting my etiquette. I'm a certified etiquette consultant. And so I teach, etiquette skills to the girls when they come into my programs. And so,
when COVID is over, we have got to have you here. I'm part of, I help co-facilitate a young women's group, Young Women with Success, and it's ages 12 to 18. So when COVID decides we can come out here like normal people and have just a cold and just some tissue, to have you come down and talk to the girls.
Listen, I love it. I would absolutely love it, because I just have, and now actually I just went back to school. So after that happened, so I got my insurance or whatever, did my etiquette. I'm also a certified master life coach. And so, because I just had to have that. And so I just had to have it, And so I'm actually in nursing school now. So I'm getting my. So yeah.
Like you intend to leave this world empty. That's
Listen, and I struggled, like, when I say beauty beyond the measurements, when I tell you that I have dealt with every type of measurement, like, even though, like my story is really about my weight and my dress size and everything. But like all my life, like when I tell you God made me so different, so I've always felt like I was being measured, and I always had this, it was like I always had this limitation, like, you can't do this and this, like why you got to do that and that, like what, like, and so in last year when COVID hit, let me tell you, it was just a time of, you know, refreshing for me, because I struggled so much with people pleasing, and like what people have to say, like, oh, people gonna be like, oh, well, here she go again, like what, like every time somebody calls me, the first thing they always say, Gigi, where are you now and what you doing now? Because it's always something different, like always. And so like, but there was something in me that just felt like almost ashamed, like, because in everything that I've done, I've mastered. You know how they say, Jill of all trades, master of none. And it's true, you can't master everything at once, but you can master one thing at a time. And I think sometimes people forget what you learn, you can't necessarily unlearn.
No, you
You
can't.
get, and once you have something, like you have an education, like I could wake up and sell a policy in my sleep, because I did it for just about 8 years of my life. And so it's not something that I have to put mental equity to right now. And so people are like, well, how are you doing this? And you got this and you got that. And I'm like, no, right now I'm in the season of, I'm focusing on this in this season. If the season is up and God tell me to learn something else, guess what? As long as I got the knowledge and I can get this information, I'm going to learn it too. And so it was something that I had to really just like accept for me, because I struggled like all my life. I just struggled with people like, oh, well, now you do it, and it just always made me feel like something was wrong with me, because I was a go-getter and I was, it was like, why am I, like, let me not be measured by that. Like, let me stop the limitations, like take all limitations off of me. If I want 20 degrees and I'm able to pay for the 20 degrees, then I'm gonna get 20 degrees, and that's none of your business. And I'm finally at that place. Like, it took me a long time to get here, because I just, for so long, I just struggled with that. Like I ain't gonna tell nobody what I'm doing now, because they're gonna be like, oh my God, like, and it's like, and God has always blessed me. He's always gifted me. Everything I put my hands forth to do, he blesses. And so it's almost like, why would you not do something? Like, if you knew like you couldn't fail, if you had this audacity to just know like, okay, I'm gonna do this and he gonna bless it, like why would you not? And so I'm just like, I'm at that place, because I used to be like, no, I ain't gonna do that, because people gonna be like, I'm gonna confuse people, because you worry about all of these things. You're like, oh, people gonna be like, oh, she doing that, and oh, she thinks she could do that too, or she and so we struggle with those things. And so, and I'm just finally at that place, like, who cares?
I love it. I love that. I really do. Like when Carmen and I, when we talked about doing the interviews and whatnot, I was like, okay, I'm excited, and I have not been disappointed in either facet. The first young lady do these interviews, and not only is it good for us, it's good for me. I'm being blessed by it. I've always enjoyed that. That was what I've always loved about doing interviews, that whoever I interviewed, I would always learn something. And I think that's the main thing, being able to glean from what people are going through. Not that you need an affirmation, because you're confident, you don't need me to affirm anything, but you're affirming something for me.
Mhm.
I think that's important. And so, I guess if we had to, and I don't want our time to come to an end, but again, I would, like I said, I would definitely to where you can talk to our girls. I think not only that, I think we can benefit in so many ways from you, just about what it means to just go after it. But if you had to leave a statement or end our interview, as it relates to who runs the world, how would you want people to remember, or what would you want them to take away from this conversation, our interview today?
So if I had to leave with a final statement, so this is a mantra that I try to live by. And I think it kind of encompasses everything. And it says that if beauty is the shadow of God on the universe, then we should strive to live in his shadow every single day. And I just feel like that is so powerful as women, as because God created us, and a lot of times we seem to forget that, like, he created us like lacking nothing. Like, if you go back and read the story of how he formed the woman, like, she wasn't missing anything. And
Nope.
so a lot of times, we think we're missing something, and we put limitations on ourselves, but we should just strive to live in his shadow. And it becomes beautiful. Like, it's automatically just a beautiful thing. And so I just want to leave everybody with that thought. Just like strive your best to just live in God's shadow daily. Because his shadow is really just a beautiful thing.
I like that. I like that. So tell everybody how we can keep up with you. I know you said you have an upcoming project, so I don't know if you're ready to release the information or not. You can let me know if that's something I can put in the article as well. But what you have coming up, where can we find you and keep up with you?
Sure. So I am on all social media platforms at Girls Igniting. And that's just girls and the word igniting. So that's Facebook. I done signed up for everything, y'all. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok, everything. And so you can find me there. You can also find me on my website, and that is www.gigiinc.org. So it's gigiinc.org.
Okay.
And I have an upcoming project. So it's called This Girl is on Fire. So funny how we were just talking about girls running the world. So it's a 90-day mentorship program for girls that have an entrepreneurial vision. And a lot of times, what stops them from achieving that goal or that vision is the confidence. They're missing, like, oh, I have this great idea, or I want to do this, or I think I'd be really good at this, or, and like now more than ever, like entrepreneurship, like, we see like teen millionaires, and, we see like
Yes.
kids that are just like, they have these amazing ideas. And so, I had a camp. So I used to do camps, but last year I didn't do my camps because of COVID. And so the last camp that I did, we had an entrepreneurship component. And I mean, these kids had $1 million ideas. Like, they were like, oh yeah, we gonna set up, we gonna, and I'm just like, what? Like, I need to like patent some of this stuff y'all coming up with, because this is just bananas. And so I decided to create a 90-day mentorship program. It's for adolescent girls, so ages 12 to 18. And so basically in that time frame, they are going to literally take their idea from an idea in 90 days to a full-fledged business. And so we are going to equip them with everything that they need, all the tools, all the resources. It is a virtual program. And so everything will be on their virtual platform. So it's not as intense as, okay, they got to come here and do that, so
Right.
it's going to be more free flowing, but they'll have, their assignments, and it's guided. They'll have access to me for the 90 days. It is limited. I'm only trying to I probably will cap it right at 15 girls, just because I want to give them the time and the energy. At the end of the 90 days, one girl is gonna get a scholarship for $1,000 to actually put into that business, and really just give them an opportunity to take off. And so super excited about that. That's all on my website, www.
I was going to say that. When
Yep.
did
So
they need, when is the, I guess, when are you hoping girls need to be registered by? Because you think
right now, so registration is literally open. I haven't it's open on the website. I'm just creating some background, like flyer and flyer information and things of that nature. And so I should have that flyer probably in about a day or two. And so March 8th is when the actual program starts. So they have from now up until March the 8th. So we're about a month away from the start of the program, and it's 90 days.
got you. So I'm gonna press I think I'm going to press stop here on recording, and then you and I have a quick conversation.
Okay, cool.
How do you